Our country is probably one of the blessed lands in the world. With our strategic location, landscapes that are scenic, while being potentially economic. With hard-working people, we have what it takes to become one of the economic giants in our region and even in Asia. Today, we focus on the industrial side of our economy and how PHIVIDEC Industrial Authority, or PIA, leads in promoting our country's socio-economic development through industrial means.
Welcome to Dynamic Living, the Total You. Dear viewers, we are very much honored to be here right at the very heart of PHIVIDEC, which is an industrial complex. And I am very sure na hindi po natin alam ano talaga ang nangyayari at ano ba itong PHIVIDEC. And we are, of course, very much honored to have with us the administrator of PHIVIDEC with our title episode, PHIVIDEC, Growing a People, Building a Nation. Magandang araw po sa inyo, Attorney Franklin Quijano.
Yeah, maayong adlaw, Mary Jane. Good morning, everyone, and hello to all our listeners and viewers.
Opo. Sir, coming in to PHIVIDEC, we heard that this actually sits in around 3,000 hectares of land. Is it correct?
Well, PHIVIDEC Industrial Estate is one of the babies of the PHIVIDEC Industrial Authority. So this 3,000 hectare property comprising of two communities, two municipalities, Taguluan, Misamis Oriental, and Villanueva, Misamis Oriental, which is just a meter away from Cagayan de Oro City, was really started as a forerunner and maybe one of the first of the economic zones. So the purpose is industrialization, promotion of employment, and best use of resources.
Pero, Attorney, does it mean na ang PHIVIDEC is just located here in Misamis Oriental? Wala na po bang ibang lugar?
There are other areas where PHIVIDEC can be brought, depending on the decision of the President of the Philippines. It can be brought in Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, or even in Tawi-Tawi if the President deems so. However, right now, we have a property in Panay Island, particularly the province of Guimaras, and we look forward to being given the opportunity of operating a train system in Panay Island. We could also be brought in Luzon. We have an office in Makati, so PHIVIDEC can be anywhere in the Philippines, yes.
Pero is it government-owned, or is it something that there's a partnership, there are stakeholders that are involved here?
PHIVIDEC is 100% government-owned, but it may have its subsidiaries, which could be joint ventures, where it is a joint effort of both government and private.
So far, ang mandate po ninyo is actually industrialization. So, meron tayong industrial, meron tayong social aspect in development din po ba? Kasi
That's
sabi
correct.
mo nga din, including employment din po eh. Pero, pag sinabi po natin industrialization and then you have the social aspect, how do you perform or how do you address the social aspect of the PHIVIDEC when it was conceptualized?
Well, yeah, PHIVIDEC has been conceptualized to encourage local, domestic, international locators, industrialists, processing firms to produce goods and as a consequence also increase employment for our country. For instance, one of the pioneering undertaking is the production of sintered iron. The sintered iron, sinter is spelled is S-I-N-T-E-R.
P-E-R-D.
Yeah. The sintering process is a process of mixing raw materials. The iron ore comes from abroad. The coal comes from either abroad or local. And the limestone comes from the country. Mix them together. This material is the ready material for the production of steel.
And these are now sent abroad also, di po ba? Or sometimes we use it for our own use?
We can use it our own. And this is now one of the programs of PHIVIDEC. We are thinking that if we are able to convince an investor, whether international or domestic, to come to the Philippines, use the sintered iron, or use the iron ore materials in our country, together with the coal and other local materials, we might finally be able to produce an integrated steel industry in the Philippines.
Ang ikinaganda ng inyong concept, no, when I look at it in the macro view of it, you are now going to promote, you know, whatever resources we have here, together with increasing manpower.
Yeah.
So that means employment for everybody is now more open, and we give a livelihood to our people.
Yes, yes, that's a consequence of increasing economic activity. And of course, we would like our employees to also be prepared by training over the activities that we are
Pero attorney,
handling.
you said that 44 years, magpo-44 years na tayo sa PHIVIDEC, and we have seen some movements now. In other words, yung nga sinasabi niyo, yung sinter iron and everything, no? Kumbaga, there's a slow growth already, and we can already see the fruits of your labors na heto nakikita na natin ito ngayon. Pero sa inyo pong paningin at sa inyong pananaw, will it take more years to be able to fully put in the concept and put them in place here in PHIVIDEC?
It really would depend on the atmosphere that we are also able to establish. And I am happy that everyone in the economic sector, as well as the government counterparts, are gung-ho over production. The concept of build, the concept of creating more goods with the support of everybody. And of course, the increase in activities like the President has announced regarding the railway systems, the bridges, and all the other public goods. These things are actually triggered to industrialization as
That's
well.
true, kasi yung infrastructure natin is very crucial for us to be able to produce and then transfer and move them from one place to the next.
That's
di po
correct.
ba? Heto po ba, hetong sinasabi natin, yung concept natin nitong PHIVIDEC ngayon dito sa Misamis Oriental, once this becomes successful, very, very successful, will this be now going to be duplicated somewhere else in the country?
That's what we are hoping for. We are hoping that when everybody realizes that in certain areas where there is focus on industrialization, production, and employment, others would also be able to follow suit and say, this is also a place where production and employment can also
So, ang
happen.
ganda, no? Because you're now going to be trailblazing, You are going to start it here, kick it off here, and then hopefully it will be followed somewhere else. And
Yeah.
when that happens, siguro, yung ating sinasabi ninyo kanina, industrialization ng bansa natin, that will become a reality, di po ba?
Yes.
Opo, pero part ng inyong mandate din po yata. We saw that in part of in your mission and vision here is actually to provide for the veterans as well as yung sa armed forces of the Philippines,
That's
to
correct.
be able to be given something else. Bakit po kasama siya dito sa PHIVIDEC?
Well, in the original design of PHIVIDEC, this was a development fund for industry to bloom and develop. But whenever there are proceeds, the share should be given back to government, and more particularly, some of it would be shared to the veterans, those who have proven their their worth in singing the national anthem.
Or serving the country, no?
Patriotism, that's correct. So that is one of the component of PHIVIDEC's task, to give a share to the veterans.
How many people are we looking at right now here in PHIVIDEC? How many do you have in terms of employees, manpower? And Sinter itself is already here. You're looking at a group of number of people. How many are these now?
PHIVIDEC is just the management team of the whole 3,000. But in this 3,000 hectare property are concerns, industrial concerns, and support systems. This may not be directly under PHIVIDEC in terms of employment, but they're the ones bringing in the workers. We are running to as high as more than 2,000 people, and it can increase in number, most especially this year, that there are about 5 concerns that are being erected. So we have Pure Foods, brewery, products for the feeding of animals, and we also have other plastic and other industrial
So
materials.
they will all be here also.
Yes,
so
for this year we will have about 5. Of course, we have the largest bakery in the island.
Which is the
This is
what?
Gardenia.
So they have it here also.
Yeah, Gardenia produces 8 tons of bread
Per day.
every day. Of
And
course, it's going to be operational soon.
We never knew that Gardenia will be here.
Yeah, well, we hope that through Hope Channel, you'll also be able to relate to others that we are actually an area where goods are produced, whether they are for the table or for our households and for business as well.
So that's something new to look forward to. So outside now, with that concept now being, being put into place, what are the notable contributions of PHIVIDEC, not just for the, the surrounding communities, but to the nation as a whole?
Well, clearly, we are saying that the more conscious we are of production of goods, the more hands committed to production and the movement of goods, the better it is for our country. And so, while there were certain events in the past which tended to slow down industry and production, right now we are really on the stage of being prepared and allowing everyone to come in to be able to create a higher gross domestic product.
So when you look at it now, based on what you've been telling us, how do we achieve the goals that PHIVIDEC has set itself to achieve in the coming years, Attorney?
Well, actually, as I came in, because this is only my, 9th month of PHIVIDEC, the first thing is to really re-examine our own strengths, and then, of course, connect and relate with others. For instance, definitely our local government officials, and particularly our governor, our different city mayors in the neighboring cities would be able to help promote PHIVIDEC.
Would you say that you're being a politician, which we'll be talking more about later, and you being a professor also, and you also being in the economic sector, really helped you prepare for this huge gargantuan task that has been given to you?
Well, I'm just a cog in the wheel, but I hope I will be able to perform my task in a manner that will try to enhance, accelerate, and encourage a lot more activities.
I like your word, enhance, accelerate, and encourage. Pag sinabi natin yung tatlong yun, would you say that you live by that principle wherever you go?
Definitely, yes. We have also been exposed to all the currents in our society, and sometimes these currents tend to be inhibiting more than encouraging. And of course, conscious of that, we have to take away the inhibitors the obstacles and move further into how do we improve on our communication so that we'll be able to provide an atmosphere, a platform for development.
So what would be the role now of the surrounding communities in the achievement of the goals of PHIVIDEC?
One, we are conscious that industry is not a standalone thing. You have to lean on agriculture because agriculture is source of food, but more importantly, agriculture is also source of industry. You can only have good soap if you have good coconut industry.
That's true.
You can have food, etc. So we are also trying to define the linkages that we can. And so there are certain government interests that also are wanting to locate because they would be able to provide the necessary impetus to bring agriculture to industry.
You see, siguro, one of the things wherein ako, for example, me having been here in this area, you know, being placed there in Cagayan de Oro, Bukidnon province, and in Lanao, I would be hearing a lot about PHIVIDEC, all right? But then, if you ask people on the street, they really are not very conscious what PHIVIDEC stands for. So this is now the time for us, you know, with this interview with you, for bringing you closer to the homes of these people, making them understand what PHIVIDEC stands for.
Yeah, I concede that there really is a need to promote, even the concept of industrialization has to really be promoted.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a tendency that we just become a consumer society without realizing the importance of the things that we are consuming could be produced in our backyards. I recall when I was a kid, stories like coconut, the buko juice is good for the kidneys. But whoever thought that would already be able to produce drinks out of the buko juice? But you know, entrepreneurship is a continuing process of letting people realize that the things that they have in their surrounding can be used on a larger scale by the larger society.
Yes, actually that is even supposed to be taught in the classrooms para maintindihan ng mga bata as young as they are na the things that they have that they take for granted can be some things that we can actually have a multiplier effect on, di po ba? So what are the challenges that PHIVIDEC face today?
Well, there is so much. For instance, the government is trying all its best also to generate revenues, and therefore some of our locators are asking the question already, will we be affected? And so to the best that we can, we also would want to link government to our locators and say, these are being done to support the build, but at the same time, we will have to do it with least effect on our production.
So in other words, you're trying to show a balance now between what you are doing with those who will be affected, so that at the end of the day, everybody becomes benefited from it.
We're trying to define the win-win of all this in our country.
And that's something to look forward to. We'll take a very short break, Attorney, and when we return, we'll continue on with our discussion on who Attorney Franklin Quijano is and how he landed the job of being administrator of PHIVIDEC. Please stay tuned to Hope Channel.
I am suggesting that since we are going to revise the Constitution, hindi naman po pwede na magpasa ka lang ng batas.
Hindi biro ang mga hamong hinaharap ng isang taos-pusong public servant. Kaya kinakailangang maging matatag at malusog ang puso, isipan at lalo na ang katawan. Makakamtan ang lahat ng ito sa pamamagitan ng iyong healthy choices. Alamin ang kahalagahan ng ating mga pagpipili araw-araw. Get your copy now! Our country is probably one of the blessed lands in the world. With our strategic location, landscapes that are scenic, while being potentially economic, With hard-working people, we have what it takes to become one of the economic giants in our region and even in Asia. Today, we focus on the industrial side of our economy and how PHIVIDEC Industrial Authority, or PIA, leads in promoting our country's socio-economic development through industrial means.
With our episode PHIVIDEC, Growing a People, Building a Nation. And of course, we have Attorney Franklin Quijano. So kanina po, Attorney, we were talking about the generalities of PHIVIDEC. Now let's talk about you. What do you think, motivated or urged the President to appoint you, or what were his considerations when he appointed you to become the administrator of PHIVIDEC?
I really am not sure.
So we should ask the President.
Yeah, it's really a guess. But maybe as a background, may I tell you that I taught for more than 11 years at the University of San Carlos in Cebu City in business and economics. And of course, after that, I decided to join politics. Of course,
you were mayor of Iligan.
Yeah, there's an explanation to it. So much of theory will not prove anything, but theory put into practice will mind everybody to review whatever is being thought must be applied. And so I went into politics, became councilor of a city, and eventually was at the helm of the city of Iligan for a time. For several times, I was actively involved in politics, and very recently, I was awed by the invitation to lead PHIVIDEC. At first, I was ambivalent and said, "Oh, am I ready for it?" But then I realized that looking back at the notes that I used several years back, I said,
when you were a professor.
Yeah, this is business. This is operations analysis. This is managerial business analysis. So I said, maybe. And so when the offer came to me, I readily accepted the decision of the President for me to become the administrator and chief executive officer of PHIVIDEC Industrial Authority.
So in other words, Attorney, para bang pinaghanda ka lang ng Panginoon in your lifetime. In other words, you being in the economics, you've been teaching all of that. So now this is the application time.
Amen.
So what was your reaction? Of course, you said you were awed. You were, not really ready to take it yet. Pero aside from those apprehensions, what was running into your mind when you heard when the President called you up and told you, okay, I want you to be there in PHIVIDEC? What thoughts went into your mind?
Well, trusting the President, I told myself, maybe this is where he finds me effective. Being a teacher and a politician, and having taught a lot of theories, now this is my opportunity to apply all these theories, not only in the political arena, but this time in terms of the business developments.
Would you say that really prepared you for where you are now? Because you mentioned you've been here 9 months pa lang.
Yeah.
And I believe that prior to that 9 months, there were also problems here in the PHIVIDEC. So would you say na etong mga problema na nadatnan mo, naabutan mo, is something that is really something that you're capable of solving kasi you've been really prepared for it, being in the economics, and then you being a politician. So parang you're now trying to blend together the two different areas of life.
Sa problema, wag yung maing laki. But when I was brought in, the first thing that I did was really to assemble all those well-meaning individuals, including our locators, including the local government officials. Please, let's sit down and let's look forward at the challenges that we are facing. Instead of being overly critical and say, what are the weaknesses of this institution, I realized that moving forward and hurdling the difficulties should mean everybody helping in. So being a facilitator of a workshop method called open space technology, I conducted an open space event here at PHIVIDEC. And then from there, I realized that I was able to establish the checklists of the doables and the certain things that need to be sustained. So I had the book of proceedings with me, and then this time the locators and the stakeholders were also aware that their agenda was accepted by us as an opportunity to collaborate.
So yun yung ikinaganda. That's why I would say na you were really prepared for that particular job. Kasi coming into a problem, you know, sabi mo nga walang magaling na tao sa problema. Di ba? Walang mas magaling kaysa ano. But you being there already, and now 9 months into it, would you say that you have attained some sort of success in dealing with the problems that you faced with?
Well, I cannot make any conclusive measure, but I'd like to say that by and large, the challenges that we are facing are being confronted in a manner that is very managerial and that is consensual. And so we are able to address our port because we have we are the mouth of northern Mindanao. This is where goods come in, goods go out. So we have the international port, we have our locators and the industry, and so as a result of that, we have to handle the real property taxes, and we provide water. We are looking forward to even be host to the cutting edge technologies. In other words, if we need to dream, we would like to dream that we'll be part of the IT excellence. So these are the things that are forthcoming, and I hope that we'll be able to land on a higher mark in terms of production of all these goods.
Would you say, Attorney, if you are going to list 5 big things that you would want to happen here in PHIVIDEC during your term as administrator, kahit na sabihin natin ambitious yun siya, but you know, big things, great things happen, and they start from very small dreams. Would you say which of these 5 that you would say na these are your targets and these are the things that you would wish to see in your lifetime?
Of the 5, I'll choose 2 first.
Okay, just 2 muna. All right.
One is an integrated steel.
All right.
For the past several decades, we have been importing steel. At this point in time, we are importing all our steel components. There may be certain processing, but it is from immediate to intermediate, or from intermediate to final.
And
there is
remember,
no raw material processing.
And remember, steel is very essential.
Yes, it's the backbone of all our industries.
Yes. Okay, so that's one big thing that you have in mind. The second one?
Well, the other is we are in this more modern world. This world has been brought closer to each other because of communication. So we would like to be part of the internet technology and communication. And true enough, our president is also so convinced that communication should be improved. Of course, negatively said, we are saying that we should break up the oligopoly and the cartels of communication. But affirmatively said, we are saying that we can bring in a lot of players so that the bandwidth that is made available to our people will be bigger.
Kasi the more there are players in a particular field, it opens up more, you know, to those who need it.
Exactly. And the rural areas need a lot of bandwidth signals in order to increase the opportunities of learning, education, and also with the Philippines being one of the leaders in movement of people.
That's true.
The rest of the
Marami
world,
tayong nagpapadala sa labas.
yeah, we have lots of people all over the world, and I think we have to consider that as a blessing more than, you know, all the complaints that why are there so many people around the world. In fact, we have been appreciated for the values that we have brought to the many cultures. So with this, we also need to provide the opportunity for the people around the world to communicate with us. And so as we become the center of communication, one of the capitals of texting in the world, maybe the largest
Yes, that's
texting
true.
country in the world, then there has to be some support that should be provided.
Actually, that is in corollary to what you want, you know, to happen with communication. I just had the opportunity to interview the Department of Health, no? And one of the goals that they have, the programs that the Department of Health has, is actually making accessible the data of patients, so that when there is movement of a patient from a particular area to another area, then there is no need for them to be bringing so many data with them. So by the click of an internet, or maybe the, you know, they just look at their data there, then you can already know what's happening to this patient at bakit kailangan siya ganito ang kanyang gamutan niya.
Even patient management
can be done. So it will ease a lot of things. So maganda po yung inyong adhikain po. So let's talk about what guides you, or the principles that you live by which you perform your job. Because by then, the people who are watching us or listening us will say na, kaya pala ganito si Attorney Franklin Quijano. It's because this is the principle or the principles that guides him in his work as a government, you know, a personality.
Well, one is trust. You have to give basic trust to everybody within your work area. And when there are certain things that need to be improved on, you have to communicate so that that trust can be heard and seen and felt by the people around you. And of course, when you have that, you would tend to be appreciative. The world has not been made out of a problem. The world has been made out of love.
And we make the problems ourselves.
Well, problems come out because of the frailties that we put in. But always remember, when God made the world,
it
He
was
made
always
the world out
because
of
of
love.
love. All right. Now, so Attorney, I know for a fact that you grew up, your growing up years was in Dansalan. Correct me if I am wrong.
I was born in Dansalan, now Marawi City.
Now Marawi City.
That's correct.
And we know also that with the Marawi siege, the most, you know, it celebrated its first year anniversary already. How did you feel about it when you knew that it would happen? When, you know, it happened already. And what do you think should be the role of each individual now in helping the rebuilding of Marawi?
Oh, I can't help but be emotional. When the incident happened, I was in the city of Iligan, and friends from Marawi City, both Maranaos and Christians, called me. And when they told me that certain exchanges of gunfire occurred, I readily told them, move out. The reason is a product of my study has told me that this thing that we are addressing is really difficult to deal with. And in fact, that's where I appreciate the President's quick decision. He was so decisive in saying, we have to remove terrorism from the face of our land. There is no other way but confront. For the past several administrations, the tendency of some of the leaders is to just shrug off. But the danger has been escalating, and so we have to confront it. But more than that, now that we have this situation, really it breaks our heart. Even the President is so sad and affected by the turn of the events. But at the same time, it's now high time to really say, how can we rebuild Marawi? And doing so, I think it is not just physical rebuild. It's also heart rebuild, psychosocial, cultural
Yes.
and economic rebuild.
But then there's always hope, attorney, and we know that everybody is hopeful now that the rebuilding is going to start very, very soon.
Yes, but you have to provide the infrastructures, not just the physical infrastructure, but also the organizational infrastructure.
That's true.
We have to connect to people, ask people, create consensus. And I hope that our Rebuild Marawi program could be improved as we consult others.
So, tanungin ko po kayo ngayon, do you have plans of running for higher positions?
I would like to rephrase that. Dreams. No, dreams are always there.
Yeah,
Dreams are always there, but you have to be pragmatic into can this dream happen so soon, so fast, or do you have to wait for forever? So right now, I am contented with being with PHIVIDEC, and if the president tells me that I should move into another plane of arrangements, I would respect his decisions.
Okay. Now, what is your vision for PHIVIDEC first? The second follow-up would be your vision for yourself.
Well, PHIVIDEC has been built on the dream of industrializing our country. And if you look at the industrialization program of our country, it really is not a climb, but it really is ups and downs, ups and downs. In the 50s and the 60s, we thought we will be industrializing. At the time, we were already producing our own textile, our own shirts.
That's right.
And sadly, after the 70s and the 80s, it all fell. So practically, our industries have gone bankrupt, some of them. And without the OFW as a source of income, we would have been a bankrupt country. And now we are drawing our strength from our OFW and from our relationship with other countries. Perhaps we should enhance that, but at the same time not forget the fact that we can bring back, we can revive our industries. And this is one primordial role of PHIVIDEC, the Industrial Authority. We would like to say we can actually create a series of relationships. Bring PHIVIDEC to, say, Tawi-Tawi, bring PHIVIDEC to, say, Cavite or Nueva Ecija or Isabela. These are the areas where PHIVIDEC can play its role over industrialization. And then when PHIVIDEC is part of the EcoZone family, would also be able to help bring communication closer to each other. That is where I feel that maybe the economic zones and PHIVIDEC can help in the broadband technologies.
So these are things that can really be a reality instead of just being dreams.
Yes, I have already talked to friends. I have talked to the leaders of the country, and I said we can help. Just consider yourself to be a positive agent and be part of the growth process of our country.
Yes, and your vision for Attorney Franklin Quijano.
Yeah, just be around, be supportive, and listen to people, empathize, and then perhaps support the undertakings of others. There is no limit to bringing back decency and integrity in our country. If you will notice the call for bring back integrity, of course, negatively said, it is war against drugs and maybe smoking, war against criminality and corruption, war against poverty, and of course taking out insurgency when everyone becomes one in dialogue. These things are programs which are addressing the contemporary conditions, but at the same time, hurdling all this means that we would have more prosperity, because as we take away the vices in our economy, we would be able to be more productive.
Yes, and including also siguro, Attorney, when there is no corruption at all, it will become more inviting to the investors to come in and you know, be joining hands with us towards that dream of us, which is to industrialize the country, provide more food on the table for an individual or for the ordinary one, and providing livelihood for everybody.
That's
so
correct.
that yung long-term goal ni President would be, hindi na kailangang mangibang bansa, kundi kaya nang mamuhay sa sariling bayan.
And you will notice, Doctora, that the fight against corruption is nothing but the consciousness of creating character for the Filipino. When the Filipino has that character to build its own country, we have proven our character to the rest of the world. We are good workers outside. We are good, even domestic helpers
Kaya
to
gustong-gusto
others.
nila ang Pilipino,
Yes.
di po ba?
And so when that happens, maybe the best practices of the other countries can also be brought in and say, we are a character, the Filipinos are a people which can bring the best.
In other words, it all goes back again to the values that each one of us has, di po ba? So how do you face the challenges that you have right now?
Well, face the challenges each day, but be part of the whole consensus of people who would like to hurdle, catapult the country to progress.
So let's go on a lighter note now. How does Attorney Franklin Quijano spend the day, and how does he de-stress himself?
Well, one is offer this, connect with the higher order of things. Bring God to your work first and foremost, and of course sort out things based on the priorities of the day. But at the same time, at the end of the day, give a big sigh and say, thank God I was able to hurdle the day. Tomorrow is another day, but give me the strength to be able to hurdle this other day. It's a very historical that you came as we will be celebrating our Independence Day.
Yes, tomorrow is
Tomorrow is
Independence
Independence
Day.
Day.
And I see all the flags, you know, everywhere, and it
Yeah.
makes you proud to be a Filipino.
Yeah, and so I hope that as we do governance, the level of patriotism that all Filipinos will be able to imbibe gets higher and higher.
At yan po ang ating dalangin, at yan po ang ating panawagan, lalo na sa mga kabataan.
Yeah.
They should be able to embrace being Filipino.
Proud
Truly,
of being
proud
Filipino.
of being Filipino. Right. So, maraming salamat, Attorney. What is your message of hope po sa ating mga tagapagpanood, or imbitahan ninyo sila upang maintindihan nila ano ba ang PHIVIDEC, pwede silang bumisita at pwede silang makipagpulong sa inyo?
This is Franklin Quijano. We are trying to help improve the plight of the Filipino by producing goods, by enhancing employment, but more importantly, would like our people to consider how what they're doing every day would be able to contribute to production. Be entrepreneurs, help build goods. There were times in the past when I appreciated the work of my grandma, who was trying to concoct the medicine to address certain ailments. But I think this is high time to also not just look at welfare of everybody, but also produce the things that we thought was effective in the past. Do it in a commercial level. Let us produce more Coca-Cola. Cocoa water.
Coca-Cola,
That would be good for our kidneys. That would be good for our well-being. So, increase welfare. Exchange goods. Be a Filipino loving our country and exchanging, relaying the blessings of God.
Yes.
God bless everyone.
Yes po. Narinig po natin si Attorney Franklin Quijano sa kanyang panawagan sa bawat isa sa atin. Tandaan po natin, bawat isa sa atin, we have a role to play in making this nation great again. Each one of us must have that love for our country, trying to help each other build the nation. Sabi nga natin dito is growing a people, building a nation, and PHIVIDEC is part of that. At sabi po sa 1 Corinthians 3:8 verse 10, sabi niya, the one who plants and the one who waters have one place, and they will each have their own rewards. Magandang araw po sa ating lahat.
Dynamic living, making the best of you on sinabi ba natin
If you have been blessed by this program, share hope and help us continue to bring hope everywhere. Send your donations to South Philippine Union Conference through any of the bank details shown here. Hope Channel, sharing love, changing lives.
Meet the Hanson clan. Like any typical family, they have their issues. George, the father of Jennifer and Sebastian, is an atheist. His wife Suzanne is into the New Age. Suzanne's sister Mary is a born-again Christian married to Tom. Tom's mother recently died in a car accident. When Rosalind died, Tom really wanted to know what happened to his mum after death. His friends and family had many different views on the subject. George said, "Death is just the last step in our evolutionary process. When you're dead, that's all. Enjoy life today, it's all you've got." Suzanne told Tom, "This is just a new beginning for your mother. Now her soul is set free and she can come back again, perhaps as a cow or human, in the never-ending circle of life. No one ever really dies." Tom didn't like that idea too much since he's not a vegetarian. The idea that he might be eating someone's relative or even his mum someday didn't sound right to him. Tom's wife Mary said, "My dear husband, I know you must be sad, but your mother is now in heaven watching over you." At first that sounded real good to Tom, but then he wondered how much he liked the idea of his mother watching his every move now that she was in heaven. It was bad enough when he was a child. Tom's ever-so-sarcastic co-worker said, "Perhaps she went to purgatory or the flames of hell. Was she a good Christian?" As Tom thought about these conflicting views, he felt an overwhelming desire to know the truth. How could he know for certain what happens once you die? The apparent darkness beyond the grave troubled him a lot. He thought, if I die, then what? I like my life, and the idea that I might cease to exist forever is rather a terrifying. So Tom set out on a journey to discover the truth about death. He scoured the internet looking for answers, read articles and watched videos on the subject, but the more he read and the more he heard about death, the more confused he became. Perhaps like Tom, you've wanted to know what really happens after death. Unfortunately, you can't pick the after-death version you most prefer. Going up, going down, coming back around, or staying in the ground forever. You can choose to believe what you want, but that doesn't make it true. There aren't many truths on the subject, just one. Since we believe the Bible is God's word to us, we're going to discount the staying in the ground forever and coming back around ideas. The Bible doesn't support those theories. The secret to solving the mystery of death is found in the truth about the soul. Are you a soul, or do you have a soul? If you are a living soul, there is nothing that leaves your body when you die. The truth about death is important to understand because if you have a soul, separate and distinct from the body, the door is thrown wide open to the world of spiritualism. The Bible says God only has immortality. If the soul never dies, it must be immortal, but that idea is not found in the Bible either. At the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, Satan said, "You shall not surely die." Thus the first lie about man possessing immortality was told to Eve. But God said, "If you eat the fruit of the tree, you will die." Who was right, Satan or God? Adam and Eve and every human being since have fallen under the hand of death. Everyone eventually dies. No one will argue that fact, but What then? A correct view of the soul is found in the book of Genesis. It says, "The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." Notice the word became. Man became a living soul. It took the body and the breath of life to make a living soul. The word soul in Hebrew means being or creature. With the breath of life, man became a living creature or living being or living soul. Now the question then follows, did Adam have a creature or did he become a creature? Did he have a being or did he become a being? Did he have a soul or did he become a living soul? A simple reading of the text makes it clear he became a living soul. He did not have a soul distinct and separate from the body. Take away the breath of life, and man is no longer a living soul. Simple. All that is left is the body without the breath of life. Now he is a dead soul, a dead creature, or a dead being. According to the Bible, the word breath and spirit have the same meaning. When the Bible says, "The breath returns to God who gave it," it is the same as saying, "The spirit returns to God who gave it." Some Christians believe the spirit is separate from the body, that when a person dies, his spirit goes to heaven as a conscious entity. But is this true? Note what Solomon said. "The living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun." Tom's mother didn't go to heaven the day she died, which means he can breathe a sigh of relief. She won't be watching over his every move. The breath of life returned to God who gave it, and her body returned to the dust of the earth. God said, "Dust you are, and to dust you shall return." God banished Adam and Eve from the tree of life so that man would not live forever. It makes no sense then to say that when they died, they would live forever, either in the flames of hell or go directly to heaven as a spirit. The prophet Ezekiel said, "The soul that sins it shall die." And David said, "When a man dies, in that very day his thoughts perish." Jesus and many other Bible writers compared death to a sleep. When his friend Lazarus had been dead for 4 days, Jesus said, "He is asleep." His disciples didn't understand, so Jesus said plainly, "Lazarus is dead." When people die, they sleep in the grave until the resurrection. When you go to bed at night and wake up in the morning, 8 hours seems just like a moment in time. So it will be with the sleep of death. But what about people who say their loved ones came to them in the night and told them about heaven? Once you understand this simple truth about death, it becomes apparent that all spiritual manifestations of people who have died are illusions. Evil spirits posing as deceased friends and family who really are still in the grave. It's not difficult for evil spirits to appear as someone from the past. It happened to King Saul when he went to the witch at Endor and an evil spirit impersonated the prophet Samuel. The truth about death exposes the lies of Satan and reveals the many ways he has deceived people on earth. Paul wrote to Timothy, "The Spirit clearly says that in later times some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons." Tom finally discovered the truth about death. It's just a sleep until the resurrection. He doesn't go up, down, or come back around, and he doesn't have to worry about his mum watching over his every move or eating a distant relative someday. Best of all, because of Jesus, he won't pass into oblivion. He can have life after death, eternal life. And that, my friend, is the truth about death.
Of course.
Sometimes.
Why not? Yes.
My brother.
My mom. And of course, my dad.
The policeman.
Boss, my teachers.
My grandpa.
When I'm threatened?
When he stares at me.
When I hear his whistle.
When they raise their voice.
When they call me by my full name.
Whenever he calls me like this. Hey, come on, bro. Because they're the law.
He's older than me.
My grade would be at stake.
They're my parents.
Since I'm younger than him,
I'll be fired if I don't. You know.
Obedience
Is more than a
state
of being
obedient.
It is our
willful practice
Of obedience. Conscious.
decision
to obey policemen
To obey
your
and
parents.
teachers
It means submission
to the rules.
which are meant.
to keep us safe.
Likewise,
Obedience.
Is a manifestation of love. I respect my
I love
parents.
my
Like
mom. I love my
older
dad.
brother.
Besides,
It says
We obey
our grandparents,
our older brother,
Our
people of authority,
our
our
boss,
parents, in the Lord.
Lord.
For this is
That's right.
Agay, murag lapad man na akong ulo. Inom sa kuha niya tableta para mawala ni. Murag pa muhipoy man na akong mga bukton. Ay, may nalang niapod ko yung tableta para ni. Ayay, murag wala gani may angay akong tiyan sa akong pamahaw ba? Naman po siguro ko'y tambal para sa hapto sa tiyan diri.
Hops! Kadali lang higala. Nahibalo ka ba nga pwede kang madaot sa dili sakto nga pagtumar og mga medisina? Tungod kay sintetika ni, kikinahanglan gayud ang medical advice sa pagtumar ni ini. Busa, sulahi usa ang natural remedies. Ang Natural Remedies Encyclopedia adunay kapin sa 11,000 ka home remedies para sa sobra sa 700 ka mga balatian. Palit na sa Natural Remedies Encyclopedia. Sa Natural Remedies Encyclopedia, siguradong mas safe and healthy ka.